Welcome to Pocket Coaching. I'm Dr. Kate, and today I want to talk to you about the difference between setting a boundary and creating a barrier. Often these things are somewhat kind of put together. We think boundary, barrier, kind of the same thing, but they're a little bit different. So when we are setting a boundary, its purpose is to protect our personal well-being in space. It is meant to ensure respect and understanding in our relationships, and it defines what is acceptable and what is not. Boundaries are flexible. They can be adjusted over time or based on changing circumstances and relationships. They're communicative, which means that we talk about them. Setting boundaries involves clear and open communication about needs and limits. They're respectful. Boundaries respect the needs for autonomy of both parties involved. And they're positive. They're constructive, aiming to enhance relationships and personal well-being. When we create a barrier, we're putting ourselves forward, we're protecting ourselves, but often at the expense of a connection with someone else. They can avoid vulnerability or discomfort. So we may be putting them in place because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Barriers can stem from fear or past negative experiences. The characteristics of a barrier is that they're often rigid, they're inflexible and difficult to change. They might be avoidant, so they prevent that open communication and understanding. They create isolation. They create distance and connection in our relationships. And they can be negative. They can result in alienation or hinder personal growth or relational development. So here are some key differences between boundaries and barriers. The intent. Boundaries are set to maintain healthy relationships and self-care, while barriers are erected to avoid discomfort or vulnerability. The flexibility. Boundaries can adapt and change. Barriers are typically inflexible. The communication. Boundaries involve dialogue and mutual understanding, whereas barriers often result in avoidance and lack of communication. And the impact. Boundaries foster trust and connection, whereas barriers lead to isolation and disconnection. So understanding the difference between boundaries and barriers is crucial for our personal growth and healthy relationships. Setting boundaries is a skill that promotes resilience and well-being, while creating barriers might protect us in the short term, but also often hinders that long-term growth and connection. Recognizing when to set a boundary versus when one might need to create a barrier can lead to a more balanced and fulfilling interactions, both personally and professionally. So I want to hear back from you. Where are some spaces that you maybe have created a barrier that you could work to create a boundary? And are there spaces where maybe you've put up a boundary that maybe you actually do need to create a barrier? I love hearing back from you. I hope this has been helpful today. And as always, be well.